Cho was a year older than he was. She was very pretty. She was very good at Quidditch, and she was also very popular. Ron seemed to know what was going on inside Harry's head. Listen, you're not going to have any trouble. You're a champion. You've just beaten a Hungarian horntail. I bet they'll be queuing up to go with you. In tribute to their recently repaired friendship, Ron had kept the bitterness in his voice to a bare minimum. Moreover, to Harry's amazement, he turned out to be quite right. A curly-haired third-year Hufflepuff girl, to whom Harry had never spoken in his life, asked him to go to the ball with her the very next day. Harry was so taken aback he said no before he'd even stopped to consider the matter. The girl walked off looking rather hurt, and Harry had to endure Dean's, Seamus's, and Ron's taunts about her all through History of Magic. The following day, two more girls asked him, a second year, and to his horror, a fifth year, who looked as though she might knock him out if he refused. She was quite good-looking, said Ron, fairly, after he'd stopped laughing. She was a foot taller than me, said Harry, still unnerved. Imagine what I'd look like trying to dance with her. Hermione's words about Krum kept coming back to him. They only like him because he's famous. Harry doubted very much if any of the girls who had asked to be his partner so far would have wanted to go to the ball with him if he hadn't been a school champion. Then he wondered if this would bother him. Then he wondered if this would bother him if Cho asked him. On the whole, Harry had to admit that even with the embarrassing prospect of opening the ball before him, life had definitely improved since he had got through the first task. He wasn't attracting nearly as much unpleasantness in the corridors anymore, which he suspected had a lot to do with Cedric. He had an idea Cedric might have told the Hufflepuffs to leave Harry alone, in gratitude for Harry's tip-off about the dragons. There seemed to be fewer Support Cedric Diggory badges around, too. Draco Malfoy, of course, was still quoting Rita Skeeter's article to him at every possible opportunity, but he was getting fewer and fewer laughs out of it. And just to heighten Harry's feeling of well-being, no story about Hagrid had appeared in the Daily Prophet. She didn't seem very interested in magical creatures, to tell you the truth. I guess I could have done a better job of reading that one. She didn't seem very interested in magical creatures, to tell you the truth, Hagrid said when Harry, Ron, and Hermione...
It's 8 o'clock.
It is 8 o'clock. Asked him how his interview with Rita Skeeter had gone during the last Care of Magical Creatures lesson of the term. To their very great relief, Hagrid had given up on direct contact with the Scroots now, and they were merely sheltering behind his cabin today, sitting at a trestle table and preparing a fresh selection of food with which to tempt the Scroots. She just wanted to talk to me about Harry, Hagrid continued in a low voice. Well, I told her we'd been friends since I went to fetch you from the Dursleys. Never had to tell him off in years. Never played you up in lessons, has he? I never, never played you up in lessons, has he? I told her. Oh, that is Rita Skeeter asking Hagrid. But Hagrid is telling the story, so this is kind of weird. She just wanted to talk to me. Oh, I'm not even reading this right. Boop, boop. Okay. She just... Sometimes trying to get the voice out and read at the same time is not easy. Okay. She just wanted me to talk about you, Harry. She just wanted me to talk about you, Harry. Well, I told her we'd been friends since I went to fetch her from the Dursleys. Never had to tell him off for years, she said. Never played up in lessons, has he? I told her no, and she didn't seem happy at all. You'd think she wanted me to say you were horrible, Harry. That was... Of course she did. Good. Wow, this is just not going well. Of course she did, said Harry, throwing lumps of dragon liver into a large metal bowl and picking up his knife to cut some more. She can't keep writing about what a tragic little hero I am. It'll get boring. She wants a new angle, Hagrid, said Ron, wisely, as he shelled salamander eggs. You were supposed to say Harry's a mad delinquent. But he's not, said Hagrid, looking genuinely shocked. She should have interviewed Snape, said Harry grimly. He'd give her the goods on me any day. Potter has been crossing lines ever since he first arrived at the school. Said that, did he? Said Hagrid. Excuse me, while Ron and Hermione laughed. Well, you might have bent a few rules, Harry, but you're all right, really, aren't you? Cheers, Hagrid, said Harry, grinning. You coming to the ball thing on Christmas Day, Hagrid? Asked Ron. Thought I might look into it, yeah? Said Hagrid gruffly. Should be a good do, I reckon. You'll be opening the dancing, won't you, Harry? Who are you taking? No one yet, said Harry, feeling himself going red again. Hagrid didn't pursue the subject. Woo, those were a rough couple of paragraphs, weren't they? Wow. Okay. The last week of term became increasingly boisterous as it progressed. Rumors about the Yule Ball were flying everywhere, though Harry didn't believe half of them. For instance, that Dumbledore had bought 800 barrels of mulled mead from Madame Rosmerta. It seemed to be fact, however, that he had booked the Weird Sisters. Exactly who or what the Weird Sisters were, Harry didn't know, never having had access to a wizard's wireless. But he deduced from the wild excitement of those who had grown up listening to the WWN, Wizarding Wireless Network, that they were a very famous musical group. Some of the teachers, like Professor Flitwick, gave up trying to teach them much when their minds were so clearly elsewhere. He allowed them to play games in his lesson on Wednesday and spent most of it talking to Harry about the perfect summoning charm Harry had used during the first task of the Triwizard Tournament. Other teachers were not so generous, noting nothing would ever deflect Professor Binns, for example, from plowing on through his notes on goblin rebellions. As Binns hadn't let his own death stand in the way of continuing to teach, they supposed a small thing like Christmas wasn't going to put him off. It was amazing how he could make even bloody and vicious goblin riots sound as boring as Percy's Cauldron Bottom Report. Professors McGonagall and Moody kept them working until the very last second of their classes, too, and Snape, of course, would no sooner let them play games in class than adopt Harry. Staring nastily around at them, he informed them that he would be testing them on poison antidotes during the last lesson of the term. "Evil he is," Ron said bitterly that night in the Gryffindor common room. Oh goodness, we've been reading for 11 minutes. You're not exactly straining yourself, though, are you? Skipped some here. "Evil he is," Ron said bitterly that night in the Gryffindor common room. "Springing a test on us on the last day, ruining the last bit of term with a whole load of studying." You're not exactly straining yourself, though, are you?" said Hermione, looking at him over the top of her potions notes. Ron was busy building a card castle out of his exploding snap pack. A much more interesting pastime than with Muggle cards, because of the chance that the whole thing would blow up any second. Okay, I guess we'll stop. I guess a couple of bonus minutes there this episode because of how horrible I read those last couple of paragraphs with Hagrid. Okay. So we will leave off with them in the Gryffindor common room. Looks like the break's coming up in another page and a half. And wow, and we still have a bit to go before the end of the chapter. Okay. Okay, bye then. Bye.